we're beginning with Trial of Magneto. Now, the story opens up with the preview that we got, and the preview basically follows X Factor hanging out with X Force and X Men to try and figure out how and where Scarlet Witch had been killed. And yes, that's the topic at hand. The Scarlet Witch has been killed. Now, ultimately, there's a lot of detective skills that goes on, and I'm not going to bore you with all that. If you're into that, go read the book. It's pretty in depth for the most part, apart from my boy faffing about and being really freaked out with how gruesome some of it was. Because I mean, she has been killed off, so that is a bit unfortunate. Whilst looking at the blood, Dakin and Wolverine, as well as Polaris, all clock onto the fact that it's either magic or metallic, whatever had bound Scarlet Witch's hands. Now, Polaris clocks onto that first. She tells the X-Men that, yeah, let me go first, let me go ahead and talk it out with my father, and he is the prime suspect of the matter, which is incredibly weird because, I mean, the entire island hates Wanda Maximoff to the point that she is practically their Voldemort. She is who shall not be named. Okay, people do absolutely hate her, and it's the fact that they decide, you know what, the only person who could have done this is her father, the only person who actually loves her on this island. So it is a bit weird in that sense, but ultimately all the clues are pointing towards Magneto. Moving on, we're on here with the Quiet Council, who are talking about this with Magneto. Ultimately, this is taking place during the X Factor autopsy, and Emma Frost is coming across very sus, which is really weird. But yeah, it is really weird, and Magneto is pleading to Xavier about resurrecting Scarlet Witch. For all those you don't know, the X-Men can resurrect themselves. They can resurrect mutants now. And Charles Xavier basically says that they do have copies of their minds, Pietro and Wanda's minds, back in the days when they were fooling everyone that they were mutants. So they do have some really, really old backups. But the thing with that is, if you are going to bring them back, which a lot of people do think that they're going to bring them back, I personally don't think that they will bring them back as mutants. The problem is you're going to have to reset them way back. And same with Wanda Maximoff as well. I guess it depends on how old the backups are. It depends on when they were retconned, I guess. Not out of existence, but out of being mutants. I guess it depends on that. Ultimately, Charles Xavier is like, you know what? Let's put it to a vote. 3 people vote in favour. A lot of people vote against it. And ultimately, Magneto does end up getting very pissed off about this. Pretty freaking aggressive about it. And he does end up attacking Charles Xavier. This leads to Nightcrawler saving him. And Magneto's very... I wouldn't say aggravated at this moment in time, but he is very angry over the fact that no one's really following through with what he believes is the best course of action. He's obviously grieving as well because it is his daughter. And yeah, I mean, they call it the trial of Magneto because everyone thinks it's him. And I don't think people at the Quiet Council think it's him at the moment. But obviously, the X-Men, X-Factor, X-Force, and everyone else out there do think it's him. Now, Storm here makes a very weird statement, and she says that you aren't the most powerful mutant in the room anymore, which I find incredibly weird, because the only person who can actually go toe-to-toe with Magneto is Storm, and there's literally no one else. And I say toe-to-toe, I don't think Storm would absolutely annihilate Magneto, and I don't think Magneto would absolutely annihilate Storm. I think it would be pretty drawn out, and 5 times out of 10, Magneto would probably win, and 5 times out of 10, Storm would probably win. There's no real more powerful person between the both of them, which again does make me feel a bit weird because Magneto's absolutely trashed Exodus before, and this was back in the days when Exodus's powers were pretty, not Exodus's powers, but Magneto's powers were a bit on the decline at that point in time, and Magneto would obviously annihilate practically everyone else here. Maybe Sebastian Shaw might be a bit of a problem, and Charles Xavier has obviously been absolutely hammered here. So I don't know what Storm's actually getting at. I think that's not really the best thing to say unless Storm's is feeling really confident about whooping Magneto. So, yeah, that is a bit of a weird one that you might want to ponder later. Now, back to where X-Factor have been keeping all their dead bodies. Tommy obviously clicks onto the fact that, yeah, her mum has practically bounced out of here. We don't know where her body's gone. It's not really here anymore. He says that she's there somewhere, and that he doesn't understand magic, and that's more of his brother's thing. Yeah, his brother is off planet currently. He's facing the last annihilation. Back to that later, because we've got the Avengers to deal with. Ultimately, the Avengers did end up voting on the X-Men, the Quiet Council, ended up voting on telling the Avengers about what had happened. And Vision has practically clocked onto the fact that near the gate is Wanda's favourite flowers. And she never came back from the Hellfire Gala. The weird thing is, why was it even public that Wanda went to the Hellfire Gala? Because she is a pretender. They absolutely freaking hate her there. So that's a bit of a weird one that you might want to ponder there as well. Professor Charles Xavier walks through and does break the news that it's true and Vision was right about the fact that, yeah, Wanda unfortunately couldn't make it. Then we get into the X-Men and X-Factor battling Magneto, which I won't show you a lot of. Again, buy the book if you want to. And, yeah, Magneto is like, y'all are freaking stupid. You have Laura flying at me, Deacon flying at me, Wolverine flying at me, which does make me wonder, is Honey Badger back yet? Is Gabby back? She might be, she might not be. That's currently unfolding in New Mutants, which hasn't come out this week, so we won't discuss that. They bring up the fact that Deacon's claws aren't metal, but instead, Magneto says that Krakoa soil has a lot of metal in it, so it's very stupid of you guys to actually battle me on this land. So yeah, Logan may look absolutely gassed, but I don't think Deacon's gonna feel really happy about that. Polaris and Magneto do have a bit of a heart-to-heart. I mean, it's not really a heart-to-heart, it's a very aggressive, mean heart-to-heart there. I mean, she does look great, I'll give her that, even though she's absolutely freaking grieving. This is one of the cases where, I mean, the costume actually looks freaking great. I was a bit iffy about it at the start, but if you get it right, it looks great. And ultimately, yeah, she does need a hug. Someone give Lorna a hug, man. Unfortunately, Magneto does give her some harsh truths, and it does really hurt her really hard over the fact that, yes, she's been attacked by her father, and her sister's been apparently killed by her father. Now, the way this battle does go through, Magneto doesn't want to talk to the X-Men, and the X-Men and X-Factor do all think that it is Magneto who's killed Wanda, but Magneto's obviously holding back. He is holding back on some information. We don't know what that is just yet, but he is holding back on something. Then we get into Quicksilver running up out of nowhere and beating the utter shit out of his dad. And yeah, he does clock onto the fact that, yeah, he always knew that it would have been Magneto who would have killed Wanda. And Pietro does end up crying it out. It's Northstar. He does talk it out with Northstar about this, and yeah, Magneto has absolutely been thrashed by his son. He is really sad about what's happened to his sister, and he is a bit true in the fact that she did need some compassion for once. A lot of the time with the Scarlet Witch, there really wasn't much help given there. It's just that she pops up every now and then, she does a mad thing, and then everyone gets pissed off, and then she goes off back into obscurity, And that's what constantly happened with her. We get a scene where the original Brotherhood all come and hang out. They all have a good drink, you know. Just a throwback to simpler times. Not really simpler. More wackier times. I mean, I guess your motivations were a lot more simple back then. I'd give you guys that. Toad gets really pissed off, and I find it funny that Toad gets stopped by someone who also is sort of Toad-like, with Anole ultimately stopping him from breaking more glass, with a bit of over-the-top dialogue going on with someone saying some wacky, convenient stuff about death and life and grieving, and it turns out to be the Scarlet Witch herself. Now, this is sort of falling into the trope of where a character that's been gone or is gone is now going to be wasting a few pages just chatting about a lot of obscure, random nonsense. And in this case, it's Scarlet Witch, and this will carry on until she ultimately shows up at the end of the story, which is my prediction, personally. But yeah, all in all, it's a very good book. Very wordy at times, but it definitely has some rereadability factor. I'll give you that. Personally, I don't believe that's Magneto who killed her. I think that he is holding back, and I think that he definitely knows what it was or who it was that killed off the Scarlet Witch. It wasn't Magneto himself. It would definitely have been. He definitely knows about the events that had occurred leading to Scarlet Witch's death, and ultimately I think they'll pull this story along. I think it's 4 issues or 5 issues long, and they'll probably waste quite a bit of time going after Magneto, and ultimately Magneto will open up and be like, yeah, it wasn't me, it was so and so, leave me alone. And that's probably what's going to happen. To everyone watching this on YouTube, I do live stream this on Twitch, so do come and hang out.